Girl, you need a BBL. Look at these girls on campus. Once your body is perfect, rich men will notice you. You will never struggle for money again.
Nadia had always believed that university would change her life. She came from a small home where every naira already had a job before it entered the house. Her mother, Mrs. Adana, sold snacks by the roadside. Her father, Mr. Chike, did casual construction work whenever he found a job. So when Nadia gained admission to a university in Lagos, the whole family celebrated as if she had received a ticket to heaven. Her mother even sold her old sewing machine to buy her a mattress, cooking pot, bucket, and a few clothes. On the morning Nadia left for school, her mother held her hand. "Go and study," she warned. "Do not come back with a husband instead of a certificate." Nadia laughed. "Mommy, I am going to become a big woman." Her mother smiled. "You will become a big woman with your degree." Nadia believed her, but Lagos had plans she knew nothing about. Within weeks, she discovered that some students lived like money personally adopted them. Expensive phones, designer bags, perfect wigs. Meanwhile, Nadia could spend 10 minutes deciding whether to buy rice or beans. One afternoon, she opened her purse. 700 naira. She stared at it. "Please," she whispered, "multiply yourself." The money remained stubbornly silent. And that was when Nadia noticed a group of girls whose lives looked dangerously different from hers. Nadia tried her best to manage. She attended lectures, cooked noodles when she could afford them, washed her clothes herself, and sometimes walked long distances just to save transport money. She was not ashamed of being poor. At least that was what she kept telling herself. Then she started noticing a particular group of girls around campus. They always looked perfect. Their wigs were expensive, their nails looked freshly done, their phones were so shiny that sometimes Nadia wondered if they had ever experienced a cracked screen. And money? They had plenty of it. One afternoon, Nadia was passing a cafe when she overheard two of them talking. One girl laughed. "Honestly, these men do not even ask questions anymore." The other adjusted her wig. "Just look good and enter the car." They both burst into laughter. Then they began discussing cosmetic procedures and how their new bodies had attracted wealthy men. Nadia stopped behind a corner and pretended to check her phone. She was not checking anything. She was listening. Every word entered her mind. For a moment, she looked down at her simple clothes and remembered her 700 naira. Then she looked back at the girls. A dangerous thought quietly entered her mind. Maybe this was how she could finally stop struggling. And for the first time since arriving in Lagos, Nadia began wondering if poverty could be escaped without a degree at all. The girls soon noticed Nadia. One afternoon, one of them walked up to her with a bright smile. "Nadia, you are actually very pretty." Nadia smiled shyly. "Thank you." The girl looked her up and down. "You just do not know how to package yourself." That sentence followed Nadia everywhere. Soon, the girls started inviting her to lunch. They bought her food, they complimented her, they even gave her clothes they claimed they no longer needed. For someone who had spent months feeling invisible, their attention felt wonderful. Nadia began changing. She dressed differently. She spent more time with them. She stopped answering some of her old friends. Even her mother noticed something during their calls. "Are you eating?" "Yes, mommy." "Are you studying?" "Yes." "Are you spending your money wisely?" Nadia paused. "Yes." That answer was becoming harder to defend. One evening, the girls sat with Nadia in a restaurant, laughing and taking pictures. Then one of them leaned closer. "You can change your life." Nadia stopped smiling. How? The girls exchanged knowing looks. Then the tallest one lowered her voice. We know someone. Nadia's heart skipped. For the first time, she felt that perhaps her big girl dream was finally beginning. She just did not know the price she was about to pay. The girls began convincing Nadia that she needed to change her appearance. They made it sound almost too easy. They showed her pictures, they told her stories, they laughed and said everyone was doing it. Nadia remained nervous. What if something goes wrong? One of the girls laughed. Nothing will happen. Another rolled her eyes. You worry too much. But Nadia still hesitated. Then she remembered home. Her mother's old clothes, the tiny room she had shared with her siblings, the endless struggle to stretch money that was never enough. She wanted to escape poverty. She wanted to feel beautiful. She wanted people to notice her. Most of all, she wanted the kind of attention these girls received. Eventually, Nadia agreed to visit the clinic they recommended. The building looked ordinary from the outside, but inside there were small warning signs she did not understand. The girls kept reassuring her, "Relax, you will thank us later." Nadia took a deep breath. She looked at herself in the mirror. For one brief moment, she wondered if she was making a terrible mistake. Then she pushed the thought away. She wanted a new life, so she agreed. And she had no idea that the decision she had just made would soon turn her Lagos dream into a nightmare. The procedure did not go as planned. At first, Nadia thought the pain was normal. The people around her kept telling her to rest. But as the hours passed, something felt terribly wrong. Her body became weak. She felt frightened. She could barely understand what was happening. She reached for her phone and called one of the girls. "I do not feel right." The response came quickly. "Just rest." Nadia called again. This time, nobody answered. She tried another number. Nothing. The same girls who had spent weeks calling her their sister suddenly became complete strangers. Nadia began to understand something terrible. They were afraid. Not only because she was sick, they were afraid of what would happen if anyone discovered what they had been involved in. One of them eventually returned, but instead of comforting Nadia, she whispered to the others, "We have to get her to a proper hospital." Another girl panicked. "What if the police find out? We cannot stay here." Nadia barely understood their conversation. Her head was spinning. Her body was getting weaker. She only knew one thing. She needed help. And the girls who had promised to change her life were now desperately trying to escape from the consequences of it. The girls eventually took Nadia to a hospital, but they did not stay. They left her at the entrance, told the nurses she needed urgent attention, and disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation, not even a simple "Are you okay?" Just gone. Inside the hospital, Nadia was frightened and weak. The nurses rushed to attend to her. The doctors soon discovered that she had suffered serious complications from an unsafe cosmetic procedure. Nadia could not stop crying. She kept asking the same question. Where are my friends? Nobody knew what to tell her. Meanwhile, her mother received a phone call. A hospital. Her daughter. Emergency treatment. Mrs. Adanya's hands began shaking. She did not even wait for another explanation. She borrowed money for transportation and rushed to Lagos. The journey felt endless. Every traffic light seemed determined to test her patience. When she finally reached the hospital and entered Nadia's room, she stopped at the doorway. Her daughter was lying helplessly on the bed. For a moment, Mrs. Adanya could not speak. Then she slowly walked closer. "My child." Nadia opened her tired eyes. "Mommy." Her mother grabbed her hand, and the tears finally came. But neither of them knew that the worst part of the story was not the hospital bill. It was the truth Nadia would soon have to tell her mother. Mrs. Adana was heartbroken. She was angry. She was disappointed. But more than anything, she was grateful that her daughter was alive. She wanted to shout. She wanted to ask Nadia why she had made such a dangerous decision. But when she saw the fear in her daughter's eyes, her anger disappeared. She simply pulled her into a hug. Nadia began crying. "I am sorry, Mommy." Her mother wiped her tears. "You will explain everything when you are strong enough." Nadia looked away. Then she whispered, "I wanted to stop being poor." Her mother became silent. For a moment, the only sound in the room was Nadia's crying. Then her mother held her hand tightly. "My daughter, poverty is difficult, but being poor is not a shame." Nadia looked at her mother. Her mother continued, "What happened to you is not what makes you valuable." Nadia's tears flowed faster. Her mother pulled her closer. "You almost lost your life trying to prove to people that you are worth noticing." Nadia buried her face against her mother's shoulder, and for the first time, she understood something painful. The people she had tried so hard to impress had never cared enough to stay. But the woman who had sold her sewing machine for her was still there. And that realization broke Nadia in a way no procedure ever could. Nadia's recovery was not easy. She had medical bills. She had missed classes. She had questions from classmates. And worst of all, she had shame. She did not want anyone to know what had happened. Her mother encouraged her to focus on healing. "Forget what people will say," she told her. "Your life comes first." Meanwhile, Nadia's former friends were nowhere to be found. Their phones stopped connecting. Their social media accounts suddenly became very quiet. The same girls who once posted pictures together every weekend had disappeared from Nadia's life as if they had never met her. One afternoon, Nadia sat beside her mother and laughed bitterly. "Mommy, imagine." Her mother looked at her. "What?" Nadia shook her head. "I left home because I wanted to become a big girl." Her mother smiled sadly. "You became a big girl." Nadia looked confused. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Just not in the way you expected." Nadia laughed through her tears, but deep inside, she knew her mother was right. She had lost something in Lagos, yet somehow she was beginning to find herself. As Nadia recovered, she began looking at her life differently. She slowly returned to school. She stopped comparing herself to other students. She stopped believing that every beautiful picture on social media represented a perfect life. Most importantly, she stopped looking for shortcuts. Instead, Nadia began researching honest ways to make money. One morning, she had an idea. She started making small snacks and selling them around campus. At first, the money was very little. Sometimes she would sit for hours waiting for customers. Sometimes she would return to her room with almost everything still unsold. But she refused to quit. Every evening, she called her mother. They would count the money together. One day, Nadia smiled proudly. "Mommy, I made 4,500 naira today." Her mother laughed. "Excellent! Do not spend it." Nadia laughed too. "Who taught you that?" "You did." Slowly, Nadia's little hustle began growing. She added drinks, then food packs, then simple beauty products. It was not glamorous. There were no expensive cars, no designer bags, no mysterious men sending money. Just Nadia, her small table, her tired feet, and her determination. But for the first time, every naira she earned felt different. It was hers. And one evening, while arranging her products, Nadia received a message from an unfamiliar number. She opened it. Her smile disappeared. It was one of the girls who had abandoned her. Nadia stared at the message. "Hi, Nadia. How are you?" She read it twice. After everything that had happened, the casual greeting almost felt insulting. Then another message arrived. "Please do not tell anyone what happened. We were scared." Nadia's fingers froze over the phone. Scared? She had been terrified. She had been lying in a hospital bed wondering if she would survive, and they had simply disappeared. For a moment, anger filled her chest. She could have insulted them. She could have exposed everything. She could have made sure the whole campus knew exactly what they had done. But Nadia took a deep breath. Then she typed, "I was scared too." She paused, then added, "That is why I needed my friends." She stared at the screen. No response came. A minute passed, then 5. Nothing. Nadia slowly put the phone down. She realized she did not need revenge. She did not need to destroy them. She simply needed to move forward. She looked around her small room. Her snacks were neatly arranged. Her business was slowly growing. Her books were stacked beside her bed. Her life was not perfect, but it was becoming hers again. Nadia smiled. Then, just as she reached for her phone again, another notification appeared. This time, it was not a message from the girl. It was something that would force Nadia to face that painful chapter of her life all over again. Months later, Mrs. Adana visited Nadia in Lagos. The moment she entered her daughter's small rented room, she stopped. Boxes of snacks and drinks were neatly stacked beside the wall. She looked around. Then she looked at Nadia. "You are now a businesswoman?" Nadia smiled proudly. "Yes." Her mother nodded slowly. "Where is the big mansion?" "Coming." "The big car?" "Coming." "The billionaire husband?" Nadia burst out laughing. "Mommy." Her mother laughed too. For a few seconds, the room was filled with the kind of laughter Nadia had missed. Then her mother became serious. "I am proud of you." Nadia's smile softened. "I almost disappointed you." Her mother shook her head. "You frightened me." She reached for her daughter and hugged her. "But you learned." Nadia nodded. "I did." She had learned that attention was not success. Expensive clothes were not success. Money from strangers was not success. And looking rich was certainly not the same as being secure. Mrs. Adana looked at the boxes again. "So this small business is feeding you?" Nadia smiled. "Yes." Her mother nodded proudly. "Then keep going." Nadia hugged her tightly. For the first time, she was not dreaming about becoming someone else. She was building herself. But there was still one final lesson waiting for her. And it would come on the day Nadia finally stood in front of a graduation crowd. Years later, Nadia finally finished her education. She stood in her graduation gown, holding her certificate with both hands. Her mother sat among the crowd, smiling through tears. Nadia had continued building her small business. It was still not a glamorous life. She still had difficult days. She still budgeted carefully. She still knew what it felt like to want something she could not afford. But now, she understood something she had never understood before. She did not need to become someone else to deserve a better life. She did not need dangerous shortcuts to escape where she came from. Her mother once told her, "Your life is worth more than appearances." Now, Nadia finally understood. She had gone to Lagos looking for a shortcut to success. Instead, she found patience. She found courage. She discovered the difference between attention and genuine love. And most importantly, she discovered her own worth. Whenever young girls asked her about the hardest lesson she learned in Lagos, Nadia always smiled. Never let anyone make you feel like you are not enough. If you enjoyed this emotional Lagos story, subscribe to LOD Tales for more powerful, dramatic, funny, and unforgettable Nigerian stories. Turn on your notifications because you never know what story is coming next. And tell us in the comments, what is the biggest lesson you learned from Nadia's story? Until next time, stay wise, stay strong, and never trade your future for temporary attention.